Welcome to We Are Everyone, a video and podcast series powered by Pivotal Moments, and we focus on the intersection of mental wellness in the workforce. We bring together young professionals and mindful executive mentors to bridge the generational gap and bring to the surface conversations about the importance of mental wellness and how to overcome career tradition challenges. Mental wellness is paramount. Join us. Welcome to We Are Everyone, Season 3. We have two very special guests today. We have Micha Weinblatt. He is the CEO and co-founder of Crocked Monkey. And then we also have Kristina Bouweiri, who is the CEO of Reston Limo. Welcome. And Kristina, did I get the last name right?
You did. Most people butcher it. You did great.
Good. I practiced, actually. I practiced. Well, welcome. Thank you both for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. 60 degrees here in Virginia.
It is beautiful. I actually walked outside and I was like, "Oh, I actually don't need a very heavy jacket. This is nice. I hope this lasts for a couple more days."
I think we're out of it. I think this is it. This is spring peeking in.
Okay, so Groundhog Day was fake news. That's fine. Perfect. Awesome. Well, we're going to have a really great conversation today. And I really like to start off. One of the things we talk about at Pivotal Moments is mental fitness and being aware of the importance of mental strength. What do you think of when you hear the term mental fitness? Kristina, did you want to start?
Mental fitness. To me, that makes me think about self-care and doing things to make sure that I'm healthy, whether it is exercise, nutrition, meditation, yoga. I feel like I need all those things to stay fit in my mental health.
How about you, Micha?
It's interesting because I hadn't really thought too much about mental fitness until you kind of brought it to my attention. And then as I started to think about it, I started thinking about kind of all the unconscious things that we do around mental fitness. I think for me, it's having a clear vision, a clear sense of purpose. I think it's, especially during the pandemic, it's finding ways to be with people safely, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying, but finding ways to laugh, to virtual hug or whatever it is. But finding ways to not be, finding ways to kind of like find joy in the moments, I think. And I think having a sense of purpose, both like at work and out of work, I think is a really important part of it.
Definitely. So, I mean, I guess that segues into, how do you practice mental fitness on a daily basis? And particularly now, how do you encourage your team to do the same? And also, mental fitness also drives to joy, civility, and innovation. So, I mean, it all kind of plays into each other. So I was just wondering how you were implementing some of those practices for yourself and across the team.
So for me, I have a gratitude journal and I write in it twice a day. And it really helps me stay focused on all the good things in my life. And I think when the pandemic hit, I read somewhere that if you need to help to stay positive, you need to think back on the best moments of your life and write them down. And that exercise was so much fun. I mean, I thought about trips and when my kids were born and if you're having a bad day, just read the list. And it just really kind of brings you back to gratitude. In terms of my team, the thing that we did that really helped with the pandemic, since we're all working from home, was that we would have a 9:00 call every morning just to make sure we're all on the same page. And that was really important when the pandemic first hit. Now we just do it twice a week. But I would start that call with a silly question like, what's your favorite food? Or what's your favorite pet? Or what's your favorite car? Or what's on your bucket list? And my employees told me that they got to know each other better during the pandemic than they ever did when we were all in the office. And it was just really great. And it brought some levity to the moment as well. And it was a great way to start the day.
Thank you, Kristina. That I love those. So one of the interesting things about Crocked Monkey is we've always been remote. And it was interesting because for a while, I'd always heard people tell me that you can't really build culture remote you can't really scale when you're remote. You miss those like water cooler moments when you're remote. And then about 2 years ago, I ran into someone who was the president of like a 200-person company, and they were all working in an office in DC. And he was complaining how much he hated that his company wasn't remote, because what he said was that and then I started to kind of change my thought about remote, and he said that when you work remote, you have to have much better communication. You have to actually have a stronger culture. Everything has to be a lot more efficient. You can't rely on running into somebody. You have to have better systems and better processes. And when he started to say that, it kind of changed the way I thought about remote. And I'd always known, like deep down, that it was better. But because I'd always heard all these people say, "Oh, you can't." And so when we pivoted, or when everyone moved to remote, it was interesting because we'd already been there. And so we had already had things like, one thing we do now is we've always done this, is just like spontaneous Google Hangouts. And so, because, a planned team meeting is one thing, but a spontaneous one is just so much more fun. And so we'll just do like, hey, 30 minutes Google Hangout. People have meetings, whatever, they just jump in. We have fun. We don't talk about anything other than just nonsense. And that's kind of a good way to get, I think, the mental fitness going as well. Just kind of like bring down the heaviness of the moment. I would say in the beginning, as Kristina mentioned, I think the beginning of the pandemic was absolute insanity. We pivoted, it sounds like Kristina did as well, pretty like drastically, and every day we sold something else, and it was pretty insane.
Wow.
And it was crazy. So one day we're selling because we so March, I don't remember, it was 15th, obviously.
13th was the official.
13th was the day. Was it
Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th. Yeah, that's what it was. That's right. And then everything shut down, and immediately, Kristina, you probably felt the same way. We realized that we didn't have a business, that like no one's buying apparel for the next 2 years. And so it's like, okay, what do we do? It took a minute for our employees to kind of thinking that if people don't have jobs, then they're obviously not buying apparel. But then after a week of us kind of just like grasping for straws, and I remember one of my employees was like, you're just like coming up with ideas like left and right, like you're just like all over the place. And I was like, we don't have a business right now. And we realized then that we had a really strong supply chain in China, and so we started bringing in masks and gowns and everything, and then we opened up supply chains in Mexico and actually Vietnam, and it was insanity. But every day we also had a meeting, because people needed to just have there needed to be some sort of consistency, because everything was craziness. And also the price of masks was going up and down, and it was just like, it was insane. But I think the fact also, and Kristina, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, because we were able to pivot and kind of save the company, it gave everyone on our team such a sense of purpose, like I talked in the beginning, where we're like, this is like, the world is on fire, we're able to help in this way, we're able to kind of, when the world turned upside down, we were able to continue to grow and stay afloat and whatever. And so it gave everyone like, wow, we can rise above all, rise above everything. And everyone came out stronger, because obviously there's so much going on at home and everything. But I think that was a big part of it as well.
That's awesome. Definitely. So Kristina, I think that just kind of going off of that from the pivot aspect, I think you could probably speak to similarities where, it's kind of like you have a certain business model, and then you kind of have to start bringing in maybe some new types of services or mechanisms that you haven't necessarily maybe explored.
Yes, absolutely. I will say, though, that it didn't happen immediately for me. I would say that when the pandemic hit, I went into a deep depression because I didn't see a way that I could save my company. We had a $30 million business, infrastructure for a $30 million business, and business just went down to almost zero. And we had to refund $1 million in deposits. And so that was awful. But then once we got our PPP loan, I realized we weren't going to go out of business. And that took about 6 weeks. And that's when we started thinking, okay, what can we do? And I remember when a local city called and said, would you be willing to pick up COVID patients that are tested positive and take them to quarantine? And I said, absolutely. And then I told my dispatcher, and he says, we're not doing that. And I said, who's we? And he's like, I'm not going to ask drivers to do that. And I said, well, we're going to ask for medical grade PPE for our drivers and our detailers. And we're going to put in the privacy dividers in all of our vehicles. And we are going to take this opportunity. We have to. We have to open our mind and think differently now. And so that was our first pivot. Since then, we've done a bunch of other things, including food delivery. We deliver food for this amazing app called Din Din, where they have famous chefs. Yeah, famous chefs rent a kitchen and make amazing food, and then we deliver it, which has been awesome because I really wanted to find new ways for my drivers to make money. I was telling you the other day, Jennifer, about how we've always done organ transplant transportation, and it's quadrupled. And it's a very sad data point that it's because of the additional suicides that are happening in this during the pandemic. So many people feel hopeless. So I'm sorry that part of my business has grown. But another one is we drive pilots to get COVID testing. And of course, that was not a need before. So we appreciate that business. And we're hanging in there and we're going to be fine.
To piggyback off of that, Kristina, it was interesting because when we were looking at masks, we had to become medical supply experts overnight. And I remember my father-in-law is a doctor, and I remember asking him the difference between a KN95 and an N95. And he was like looking at it and this and that. And then at the end of the call, he was like, Micha, there are billion-dollar companies who bring in medical supplies. Why do you think if they can't do it right now? Why do you think you can? And my response was similar to what you said, Kristina. I was like, I have no idea, but I can't ask that question. I gotta just go. Like we don't have the luxury of trying to figure out why. Like this is our opportunity right now. This is all we have. So we just got to go full steam into it. It was a similar, like your back is against the wall. You don't have another way out. That's it. And so it was a similar thing where it's just like this is the new business.
And you had the relationships in China. You already had the relationships in China, which really helped.
And I mean, we have horror stories on horror stories on horror stories, but it all worked out in the end. Bringing in at that moment with any product was really difficult. But the other thing I think Kristina talked about too, which I wanted to bring up, is just that at our company, it sounds like at Kristina's companies too, the team is at the core of what we do. And so the hardest thing about March 13th was I remember calling a couple of my advisors and I said, like, I mean, forget about the company, forget it. It's we have such a strong team and I don't want to lose anybody. And I don't want them I don't want to lower their salary. Like there was all these things. And then on that Monday, I had to take a hard conversation with everyone and say, this is what we're going to have to do. Like, what can you accept? What can you not accept? And that was like the hardest moment. But what was amazing is that everyone on the team was like, I mean, this is what they were all like. Some people took less than what I asked them to take. Some people, one of our people, I said, if you need to go freelance. And she was like, no, we're all in this together. In the end, we didn't have to cut anyone's salary, which was amazing. But the fact that the hardest conversation I was going to have, which I was like dreading, everyone was just like, no, we're all with you. We're all in this together. For mental health, from that just like kind of built, that up a lot as well. Just kind of having the confidence the team was all in and everything.
That's awesome. Well, I had to lay off 300 people, and that was obviously the worst day of my life.
Yep.
And then we were able to bring back about 75 of them. So
yeah.
So we were at 450, and we had to lay off 300. So. But
yeah, well, thank you both for sharing that. And, it's interesting. I think back to the fog of March 13th that we were all in, and then frankly was a fog for a long time. And we started this podcast in May of 2020 during Mental Health Awareness Month, and really started not knowing what types of conversations we were having. A lot of it was a cloud. And now what's really just, I'm smiling because we can speak to where we've come, right? And resilience and understanding, like really putting the people first is so important. And, understanding all of that, there is that mental fitness that can get us through what we've had to go, like where we've had to go. And something to, where the two of you have been able to do, while it was very hard to come up with those ideas and pivot, the beauty of having a small to mid-sized business compared to like the Amazons of the world. Like they were expected to perform right away because they're Amazon. And frankly, sometimes this access to the supply chain to, you know, what your father-in-law was saying is actually it was more the small business sector that had to step up because we could pivot quickly and make decisions quickly and not having to go through, you know, 20 people of leadership and having to deal with it. So, you know, I'm excited to kind of see now the rise of the small, not rise, but well, yeah, sure. Rise the smallest business sector in our, you know, new world and economy, because I think we are really able to innovate and contribute to the global and fuel the global economy as a whole. So just wanted to note that.
Yes.
Power on.
You're absolutely right.
Power on. That was like a little power. That was a power trip. Power on comment. Talking about quality. So we talk about customers first and but frankly, it's people first. You know, it's people first. So how does creating a quality customer and employee experience help support mental wellness? I know, Kristina, in our conversations, you were saying how, you know, you have meals delivered or something along those lines. You know, how are you kind of fueling the brain power and mental fitness of your employees and providing that experience for both customers and your employees?
So for my employees, for my managers, actually twice, I've done virtual happy hours where I delivered food and drinks to their homes. And they loved that. And it was a chance for us all to meet families and pets. And it was a really, really great night. And then recently we opened that up to the entire team other than chauffeurs. And we did a happy hour plus trivia night. And it was a blast. And it was just so great to see everyone. Obviously, everyone was remote. And we broke into teams and had to compete against, you know, each other. And again, I paid for the food and drinks, and that was very well received. Now, in terms of my clients, what I'm doing actually right now is they're getting a thank you card every time they use us right now. Every time they use us, they get a card in the mail. Obviously, some customers who use us every day aren't getting one every day, but we're sending out about 50 to 100 thank you cards a week. And we are reaching out to our clients through different departments here on LinkedIn just to stay in touch and see how they're doing. And we're getting great feedback for that. You know, just wanted to make sure people really know how much we appreciate them.
Thank you cards go a long way. Our mutual friend Pamela sends me like 2 each week for just, you know, she just loves thank you cards and stickers. How about you? Well, I could, before actually Micha starts, I can actually speak from a customer experience because I actually got my company's care packages. I was like, I was like, how can we connect to people outside of, you know, it's virtual, right? And so I can say as a happy customer and very high quality stuff that, you know, at least very good experience from the Crocked Monkey side. That's not an ad. That's just a compliment.
So Jen had been using some competitors for like 2 years, and we finally grabbed her through our kidding project, and it looks like she's here to stay. One of the big pivots we made was doing at home kits. So actually, also on March 15th, I came up with this crazy idea to send people gifts in their homes. And this was like, I had the whole team working on it and whatever. And I was like, this is the future. Like, no one's going to be in the office. Everyone's going to want to be sending stuff to their homes, to people's homes, employees, and as gifts and as just thank you. And like, we sold one, I think, in March kit. And, you know, we have 10 employees. That's not really going to cut it. I think we sold one in April. In Christmas time, we must have sold like 200 or 400. Or I don't even know how many kits we sold, but it was a lot. So it was very interesting because we were like way early. Coming up with the idea, and it took time for, I guess, people to just be okay with like the concept. But to talk about like how we work with employees and customers. Well, one is we are in the kidding business. That was a huge pivot for us. So now we basically become a fulfillment center. So we put together new employee hire kits, thank you gifts for customers and employees. We put together e-stores so employees can go buy cool swag from their company, and that's been amazing. I just got a huge thank you note just now. We're always trying to like beat deadlines and come up with really creative products, and I think what we do in this space that's kind of a little bit different and is that our design is really good. And we source really interesting products. So when you get the gift, like you said, Jen, it opens like a gift, and there's usually some unique piece in there that's maybe a little bit different. But that's been really good. We also do that for our team, of course. So over the holidays, we made custom joggers abroad at our factory. And a duffel bag and stuff. And so we've seen the power of it for our clients to their employees, and we obviously have to drink the Kool-Aid, so we do it for our team as well.
Can I ask you a question on that e-store? Do you have to do you ask for minimum orders if somebody wants to order something?
Yeah, but we will. That sounds like we're going to talk after this call, Kristina. I'll run through the whole. I can run through the whole.
Because I thought it was a really cool idea. I could, you could create Reston Limousine swag in every shape and form, and then my employees can just go and buy what they want, and you can take me out of it, right?
Exactly.
See, I told you guys we're going to be a good match. I was like, we have to connect. I love that. So I want to talk about a topic that is kind of one of my favorites. We have 4 generations in the workforce, right? And so you have both of you have employees, and I'm sure, you've dealt with the Gen Z, the millennials, the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, all the types. So when it comes to these 4 generations and outlooks on mental fitness and mental health, how should these different generations communicate about the topic? I mean, how are you seeing, the young versus the old kind of navigate mental wellness, particularly during COVID times?
Wow, that's a tough question. I feel sometimes that the younger people are taking it harder. They're not so crazy about working from home because, they love the camaraderie you get in the office. And the older people just seem more, resigned to the fact that we all kind of knew at some time in our lifetime there might be a pandemic. I think we're just older. I consider myself old, so we're older and wiser. It's the young kids. It's the young employees that are having the hardest time. And I would say even in our society, it's the kids and the students and the college kids, the high school kids. They're having it really hard because they've got all the pain of education and no pleasure right now. So that's what I've seen anyway.
In our company, it's a little bit different. We're super international too. So we have 4 in the U.S. and then, now 8 because we just hired 2 more in South America. So it's different to see different cultures. But one thing that I was pretty adamant about throughout the pandemic is making sure that my team went outside and kind of like I was talking about in the beginning. I don't know. There was a lockdown where no one went outside in the beginning, and I was like, guys, go outside. And I don't know if it was medical advice or not, but it was more just mental health advice. Because, I could just see that they were just sitting inside all day. I was like, you guys got to get outside. If you get this from going outside, you can blame it on me, but go outside. And then just more and more of kind of just talking them through the importance of again, of personal, of maintaining personal relationships and personal connection through the pandemic, and balancing risk versus, the problem with one of the large parts of the pandemic is everyone's thinking only of the risk of one thing, which is getting the disease, but they're not thinking of the risk of mental disease, of loneliness, the risk of, Kristina just mentioned, of kids and not getting, so like there are multiple things at play, and if you just focus on one of them, you're gonna end up, I don't know, in a lonely position. And so that's something that I've been trying to talk to the team about, is like, go outside, sit at an outdoor, whatever you need to do, just do it safe, but you can still, continue to go and breathe the fresh air.
When the pandemic hit, as I said, I was depressed, and I was kind of drowning my sorrows in wine and oatmeal cookies. And my daughter and I were making them every day and eating the entire batch. And I put on 17 pounds. And then I woke up one day and said, wait a minute, I don't have to go networking. I don't have to go to wine and cheese parties. I don't have to have business meals and be tempted by all the great food. I'm going to get on a nutrition plan. And so I lost 30 pounds. So I looked better after that than I did before the pandemic. And then I offered the same thing to my employees. And I said, if you guys want to, get healthy, I will pay for, the first month on the program, which about $430 per employee. And I have about 10 employees that have lost 40 or 50
Wow.
pounds. And I'm so proud of that influence that I had on them, because look what they're doing for their own lives and their own health. And then the other thing I did was I gave my employees off the week between Christmas and New Year's, which is something we can't normally do. We're open 24/7, 365. And that's always a busy week for us with New Year's Eve coming. And this year I said, you know what, guys, I want to give you a gift of a week off, extra week off. And it'll be this week. I want you to hang out with your families. I want you to have a great time. And they really appreciated that.
Well, first off, that's amazing that, because I think here's a thing that's interesting is we've always slapped on the mental wellness programs or corporate social responsibility onto businesses where they say they do these things, but the actual culture does not reflect that. It's just really to get like loyal employees to come in and work for them. And I think that really looking in and people first, like looking in to see that, like, you're like, wait, I just, was drinking a lot of red wine and oatmeal and eating batches of oatmeal cookies a night. I'm sure my team's probably not feeling too good either. Let me set an example, not only just from a professional way, but like a physical and healthy way. And I mean, that's impressive. So first off, congratulations. It sounds like a great program. And also, number two, I think it goes to, you said go outside. Yeah, I literally, I like to call him my spiritual guide. I have like a spiritual guide to talk to every week. And he told me I need to go outside more. He said, it's an issue. He's like, like, you need to go outside. And I didn't realize how important it was to go outside and breathe fresh air. Mm-hmm. And I think like these little things that in our, environment that is there where it's, going outside or, thinking more mindfully about what you're putting, like what you're eating, is just these like simple habits that can really go a long way to really strengthen your mental fitness. So,
piggybacking on what Kristina said, we're a small enough team. We're 10. And so I work pretty closely with everybody. And during, I think it was November and December, that's our busy time, times a million. That's when we did all those kits and everything. And I could see, as I was having conversation one-on-one with people, that this person was burnt out, this person was tired, and so I actually just said, I was like, guys, this is the busiest time of year. Take a week off, which is insane. Again, same thing, Kristina. First of all, we gave everyone Christmas to New Year's off, also for the first time ever, also, because it was just like this year was crazy. But then also, I was like, yeah, as I was seeing people between, I think it was October to December, I had each one of my employees take a week off. Make sure that they took a week off between October and December also, because I could just see that, and I was just like, the business will survive. We figured it out until now. Take the week off, because you just need to just like, the world is not going to end if we don't get this. Like you can take a breath. And everyone had been. What's crazy about COVID is I feel like if you were working, you worked harder than you ever worked before. And then if obviously a lot of people couldn't find work, but if you had a job, you worked like insane hours. And so it was important to take those like mental health days, which we did also.
That's awesome.
I love that. Well, kudos to both of you. I mean, I wish, and that's the one thing where I don't think you realize like sometimes how actually burned out you are, which, and there's nothing else to do but work sometimes now, which I'm glad I have a to-do list every single day. I'm grateful for that. At the same time, like, I need to go outside. So we like to ask all of our guests, what does mental wellness mean to you? So Kristina, since Micha just spoke, did you want to answer that question first?
Yeah, I think mental wellness is all about having a positive mental outlook on life, and surrounding yourself with positive people and not people that are not positive. And always looking for the good in people, and getting enough rest and exercise and nutrition so that you can perform at your peak. I think that when you don't take care of yourself, that's when the mental health starts to lapse, and you start to have negative thoughts, or you start to get upset with yourself. And so it's important to take care of yourself. I do Reiki for 90 minutes every week, which is amazing, because as a CEO and mom, my head is always thinking. But when I go in for my Reiki,
Reiki breath work. It's like, go ahead.
It's energy work.
Yeah, it's energy work. Yeah.
Now, sometimes Reiki practitioners don't touch you and they just hold their hands over your body. But my Reiki master gives me a massage, reflexology, and Reiki all in one. And she can clear my head. So for 90 minutes, my head is clear and nothing, no thoughts will come in. And that's sort of like a reset button that I use every week. I also do yoga, meditation. I love walking outside in the fresh air. And I think those are the things that keep me mentally healthy.
I just wrote down. I wrote down some of those ideas for myself now, Kristina. I gotta take your regimen.
Reiki is the best. It's kind of crazy. I love breath work and Reiki. It's like you don't even realize that there's that. It's like that your body's capable of producing that. It's very, Micha, I very much recommend.
That sounds fantastic. I know some people used to do this thing where you go in like a tub that's like 98.6 degrees. What's, do you know what that
is? It a salt, like a salt bath or something?
It's called. I'll look it up and I'll write it back to you guys. But it sounds similar. Where like you're basically in water that's exactly your temperature, and so you kind of like your thoughts kind of just wander and you don't think about anything. I forget what that's called. To answer your question, I think rational positivity is the word I'll use for mental health. I think as entrepreneurs, I think people confuse like being positive with you have to be critical, but you have to be positive. And so you can't like look at a problem like, oh, well, and say, I always think, in my mind, I always think everything's going to work out. And so it's actually, sometimes my friends are always like, hey, everything's always going to work out. Oh, and I was like, the mentality of everything's going to work out is not just that everything's going to work out and you just sit back. It's that knowing that it will work out, you then move to a position of being able to solve the problem. But it's not sitting back and letting it work out, but it's like, so I think that's a big part. It's part of rational positivity, which I think is super important and also helps to figure out business opportunities and stuff. Rest is important. I used to nap a lot. I still nap on the weekends a lot, less so during the week. But I think that's super critical. And just, I don't know, for me, it's a lot of just like friends and family is where I get it from, and just like laughing and just kind of light, just that I think that's the most important. Just, it's interesting because we do a lot less networking now, as Kristina mentioned. So the conversations that I have are with all my friends. And so it's like much more, I don't know if they're meaningful because it's usually just a bunch of baloney what we talk about, but it's just fun and it's light and it just keeps you, I don't know, keeps you going, I guess.
Yeah, laughter is so important.
It is. And it just releases those endorphins and all that stuff. And frankly, to your point, and to kind of close that out with the networking aspect, is Kristina and I spoke about this, is that I don't really have the desire to network again. I just am like, first put me in a room with a crowd. Like, just like, I don't need to like be picking hors d'oeuvres, number one. Number two, sometimes they're just lifeless conversations. And I think the whole point even of We Are Everyone is to bring together like people to have meaningful conversations that can drive an impact. And hopefully, I've learned something from this conversation, right? That we can like take into our practice and take into our, just whether that's business or personal, or what is business and personal these days anyways. But I just think that is an interesting point that you both brought up. And I think it's going to stick with us, in the new normal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I will never go back to my old schedule. Oh my gosh. I was out 4 nights a week, business lunches every day, lots of business dinners, some breakfasts. And, I had to get up early and get dressed up every day, blow dry my hair, makeup, jewelry, everything had to match. And then I had to watch what I was wearing because of Facebook. You had to look at the calendar and go, okay, well, when I wear it then, I can't wear it then. And I was spending $10,000 a year on clothing, and that's gone away. I wear jeans to work now and flip flops. I love it.
I love that. I love it. Well, I mean, it doesn't even matter. I mean, I might wear a kimono on my next one. It could be 20 degrees out, and I could be wearing a kimono. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So I just want to thank you both. Is there anything that you wanted to leave with our audience today before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to thank you for having this podcast and bringing a lot of these topics to the forefront, because I did feel guilty this year, feeling as if I hadn't done enough for my employees, because we were just sort of playing a game of survival. And it was when I kind of sat back and thought, I have to do something really nice for them. And all I could think of was an extra week off. And boy, they were so happy. They love me right now. They really do. So, but this topic needs to be talked about more. And I'm really glad you're doing that.
I kicked off by saying I hadn't thought about it intentionally. These are just things that I realized afterwards that we do in order. So I'm going to be now thinking a lot more about what it means, and taking some of the ideas that the two of you shared and bringing them into my company. So that's cool. So thank you.
I love that. And with rational positivity, I really think, as a business owner, a lot of the times you're doing things you don't even realize that you're doing. And just to take a step back, and that's part of, the whole self-care and mental wellness practice, and like thinking, being intentional and understanding like you've been doing it, but what that kind of all means, and recognizing it. So I just want to thank you both for coming on today and, sharing, being vulnerable. That's fun. I always love being vulnerable. And I will just remind the audience, we have Micha Weinblatt of Crocked Monkey and Kristina Bouweiri.
Yes.
Second time around of Reston Limo. Planning on calling you Kristina because, we spoke about the drivers and all that stuff. But thank you both so much. I'm your host, Jen Sherman, and we will catch you on another episode. And thank you. Thank you for tuning into another episode of We Are Everyone. You can subscribe to We Are Everyone on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and also be sure to visit www.pivotalmoments.org to learn more about the organization. And we also want to hear what mental wellness means to you. So you can follow us on social media, submit your video, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much.